What's up, guys? I wanted to take a few minutes in this video to talk with you all about a threat that we're facing to our gun rights that is really not getting enough airtime, and I think it's something that we need to pay close attention to. But before we get started, guys, I would appreciate it if you would subscribe to my channel, like and share the video, leave me a comment down below. It really helps to overcome the YouTube algorithm. Also, guys, if you become a channel member, you will get early access to the videos. All the channel members out there, I really appreciate you guys, and I just wanted to take a moment to shout you guys out. But guys, what I wanted to do in this video is talk about something that is not really being talked about much in the media, but I think is a potential danger to us, and that is the push by foreign governments to interfere in our gun rights. And to show you a little bit about what I'm talking about, I'm actually going to use some left-wing sources. That way someone can't simply say this is some kind of a right-wing conspiracy. And guys, that's why I'd appreciate it if you would share this video, because this is something that will get suppressed by YouTube. And what I wanted to begin with is to look at an article from Time Magazine, and we're going to come back to this article here for a moment, but let's first look over to Time Magazine. This is an article that appeared a couple of years ago in Time Magazine. The title is "Foreign Governments Are Taking on the U.S. Gun Industry." And we're going to read through it here just to give you a little bit more context to it. This was published in October of 2022, and let's just get started here. Frustrated by years of political inaction in the U.S., gun control advocates have been reassessing their approach and coming up with increasingly innovative ways to force firearm companies to take more responsibility for gun violence. They're trying to blame the gun and the gun industry for what people do with them. One of those people is Jonathan Lowy, a former chief legal counsel at the Brady Center to Prevent Gun Violence. This is a key thing. We know that this is one of the organizations that heavily promotes gun control and tries to infringe upon our rights. Let's see who on October 26th was announced, who will announce the formation of a new lobbying group, Global Action on Gun Violence. Now, notice that this is not a U.S. thing. This is a global thing, and we're actually going to see some examples of it here in just a minute. Focused on taking on gun makers on behalf of foreign governments. That right there is the key thing. This group is basically taking money from foreign governments to promote gun control within the United States. Now, guys, this again is not some right-wing conspiracy. This is Time Magazine. Okay, you can see it here. You can see the URL and everything else, guys. This is not something that is just being made up. This is something that is the reality that we are facing. The group will partner with other countries to argue that their citizens are harmed by the action of American gun makers and the U.S. law that protects them from litigation. That is a key focus as well that we're going to get more into here in just a moment. Now, I want you to pay close attention to this. Lowy filed papers on October 5th under the Foreign Agents Registration Act to provide legal and consulting services to the government of Mexico and plans to work with other nations on similar efforts. Litigations and other pressures and activities from the international community could well be the answer that we're looking for to solve gun violence both in the United States and around the world, Lowy tells Time. This is something that hasn't really been tried. This is a key thing because now we're going to look at something that is a little bit closer to our time frame, and this is something from the New Yorker, again, another left-wing news source. And this article was published earlier this year. It was published in January of 2024. The title of it, "Can the Government of Mexico Bring the U.S. Gun Industry to Book?" This is something here, as I mentioned here, there again, this was beginning the services with the government of Mexico, and now we're seeing that. This article talks a little bit about what is currently going on with that. Again, it's from just a couple of months ago at the time I'm recording this. The history of the U.S. gun control efforts is largely dispiriting. Yes, there have been some examples of progress, such as the spread of red flag laws, which allows state courts to temporarily disarm individuals who are considered a threat. In other words, seizing people's property without due process of law. At the federal level, though, the gun lobby has long exercised an effective veto. And we're going to skip down just a bit. And I want you to pay close attention to something here, because this is where we're going to get back to where it talks about Mexico. Finally, there is a dent in the shield. 2 years ago, the government of Mexico, a country plagued by gun violence, it also has some of the most strict gun control laws on the planet, yet as you can see here, they don't mention that. They just talk about how that it's plagued by gun violence, much of which is carried out by weapons trafficked from the United States. Now, we know that a lot of those come from a former Attorney General by the name of Eric Holder. That's something that does not seem to get much airtime either. They filed a lawsuit against the 7 U.S.-based gun manufacturers, accusing them of using reckless and corrupt gun dealers and dangerous and illegal sales practices that the cartels rely on to get their guns. This is something here that, if you remember, if you go back to the Operation Fast and Furious and all that, and I'm not going to take time to look that up in this video, but it is something that I would highly encourage you to read up on. We know that this is something that was pushed heavily. I know that basically during the Operation Fast and Furious, you had a lot of folks that were basically told to turn the other way, just to look the other way. And at that time, they say that they were trying to follow those guns to figure out who it was that they were going to. And guys, this goes back several years, but it is something that still plays in today. Yes, there's crime out there. There are criminals out there that are getting guns. Criminals are always going to get guns, one way or another. Even if it is not through the United States, they will get them during through some other means. And you have to remember that the United States is not the only country in the world that manufactures guns, that has guns, and things like that. So criminals are going to get them. We know that that's how it is these days. But this is just a picture of how that basically foreign governments even are working to try to infringe upon the rights of the American citizens. And there's something else that I want to look as well. And one of the tactics that they're using, of course, these groups don't use just a single avenue of attack. Ask anyone that has studied any kind of military doctrine or anything like that, and they're going to tell you don't have just a single point of attack. You're going to have multiple fronts. And there are ways that they do things that is basically what it does, because what we also see is another way that they are attacking our rights. You can see in this article here from Yahoo News, the Associated Press. And again, this is from March of this year. So again, bringing this up a little closer. U.S. judge rejects challenge to Washington state law that could hold gun makers liable for shootings. Basically, what this judge is wanting to do, or what this judge is doing, is, for one thing, they reject the lawsuit. That's the thing. So let's just read through this article here. Federal judge on Friday rejected a challenge to a Washington state law that cleared the way for lawsuits against the gun industry in certain cases. The measure was one of 3 bills signed by, there we go, Democratic Governor Jay Inslee last year, seeking to address gun violence. It requires the industry to exercise reasonable controls in making, selling, and marketing weapons. Considering the fact that it is a crime to sell to known prohibited persons, I think that the industry has tried to do a good job at that. There is a long process that must be followed before a manufacturer can sell a firearm. They do not sell a firearm directly to an individual. They sell a firearm to a distributor who has to be licensed federally. That distributor will then sell a firearm to a licensed dealer. Now, once that dealer receives that firearm, he will then sell that firearm to someone that has gone through a background check. Only then can someone receive that firearm. Now, we can debate about background checks as far as how that is, how ineffective they are, and all of that in another video. The National Shooting Sports Foundation, a trade association, challenged the law in U.S. District Court in Spokane, saying the measure violates the Second Amendment as well as the free speech right of its members. Here's the key. U.S. District Judge Mary Kay, I cannot pronounce her last name, she rejected the lawsuit in a decision Friday, saying the organization had not established legal standing to the challenge. This is something that we're starting to see very often these days within our courts. They are basically refusing to hear the cases. When people try to bring legitimate cases for one reason or another, the courts are basically rejecting those lawsuits, claiming lack of standing. We've seen this during the 2020 election, and it's a growing thing that we are now seeing. They don't want to rule on the merits of the case because the merits of these cases would be clear, and it would overthrow this crazy law. I mean, there's no way that this law could stand if it was not, blocked by this judge, if they did not block it, and stop it from going forward. But what we're seeing is a coordinated attack, not just in a single avenue against our gun control, our gun rights. We're seeing gun control being pushed by foreign governments working in conjunction with a lot of, there again, lobbying groups here in the United States and others. And it's a multifaceted attack. The push for gun control is an unfortunate threat. Recently, we are up to now 29 states that are constitutional carry. So we have had some victories, but our fight is not over. If you look into history, and this is something that I would encourage every one of you guys to do. Most of you guys out there watching this video that are followers of my channel, you know how this stuff works. But if you look into history, you're going to see that any time a government disarmed its people, that it was absolute chaos. It was an absolute bloodbath when it happened in Germany, when it happened in China, all of these nations. It's something that you cannot ignore. You basically lie about history if you try to ignore what has happened as a result of gun control, even within our own times, modern times. Look at what happened in Venezuela. Look at how the Venezuelan people are now. It's the criminals that still have the guns, okay? It is the people that follow those laws that are the victims. But guys, this is just a quick video that I wanted to do. Again, I would appreciate it if you would share this video. I want to get this stuff out there. I think that some of the bigger channels should pick this up, start pushing this back to our members of Congress, to our representatives, and let's cause a little bit of a stink about it because this is really unacceptable. Foreign governments have no rights to try to interfere with our lives and our rights in this country. But unfortunately, that's what we are seeing. And these globalists, again, this is not a right-wing conspiracy, guys, because as you've seen, those are not right-wing news sources. Those are left-wing liberal media, establishment media. And I intentionally use that for that purpose. But guys, thanks for watching. I would appreciate it. Share the video. Subscribe to my channel. Check out all the links down below. Become a channel member. Do what you can to help support what we do here. I'd appreciate it, guys. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.